Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be doing a card set of 3 different cards using the Deco Borders and Corners, or maybe it's Deco Corners. What is it? I have to look here. Deco Borders and Corners stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is a stamp set that I designed a while back that Heidi over at Simon, she actually saved the stamp set specifically for Stamp Tamper for a special promotion. So some of you might have seen this kind of floating around. A couple days ago on Sunday there was a Stamp Tamper blog party and there were a bunch of different coupon codes that were available to all of you, and one of those coupon codes happened to be for this stamp set. So if you use the code, and I'll put it on screen right now, if you use that code through, I think, just the end of today, Tuesday, just to the end of today, you can get this stamp set free with a $100 purchase. So definitely take advantage of that. Or you can just outright buy the stamp set. Totally cool. In fact, it will still be available for purchase after today. So there's no rush if you really love the stamp set. But if you want to get it for free and some other stuff at the same time, you can use that coupon code. Okay, so today's cards, I wanted to create something with metallic embossing powder. When I was designing the stamp set, it sort of has an Art Deco feel to it, and I really, in the back of my mind, was thinking this needs some like silver or gold embossing on it. It needs it. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was designing it. So I'm going to show you 3 different card designs using some different colors of embossing powder, and I really hope you enjoy, so let's get into it. So here is that stamp set. There are a ton of borders and elements and greetings. This is one of those stamp sets where you can really build 5 million different cards because there are so many different elements. I'm only going to be showing you 3 different card designs, but even when I was designing the stamp set, I came up with many, many more that I could have shown you guys today. So I'm starting out with some, I think it's called Fresh Asparagus cardstock from Gina K, and I've cut it down to be a little bit smaller than a standard size card front. I've positioned these 3 stamps from the stamp set on top of a grid transparency sheet. That allows me to get them on there perfectly straight, and then I can still kind of slide them around on the cardstock before I actually transfer it to the door of my MISTI. So this is a great way to make sure you have really precise placement, and it allows you to kind of protect the area underneath. I'll use that grid transparency sheet in a couple different ways in this video, and I'll try to make a note of it so you guys can kind of see the different ways you can use it. So I prepped the area with an anti-static powder tool, and then I stamped those 3 images in Versamark ink. I'm going to be doing some heat embossing, a ton of heat embossing today, so that's kind of the step of instructions for when you heat emboss. You prep the area with anti-static powder tool, you ink up your stamp with Versamark, and then you stamp, sprinkle on some embossing powder, tap off the excess, and then heat set it with the heat tool. So I'm using a coffee filter just to catch that embossing powder as I'm using it, and then I'll heat it with my heat tool. So I'll just heat that till it's smooth and melted. So now I'm going to take one of the really large border images from the stamp set, and this border image is like 7 inches long. So if you want to do some really long cards, this is one of those borders that's going to work perfect for that. So I'm first going to stamp that border using some Versamark ink, and then I'm going to stamp it a second time and continue that repeating pattern. So these 2 borders that are in the stamp set, you can definitely repeat stamp them over and over, and you could fill the entire front of a card and it would be completely gorgeous. So here I am prepping the area for the second border, and I'm going to ink that up with my Versamark ink pad and then press that down onto the card. And this is going to continue that pattern all the way off the bottom edge of this Fresh Asparagus cardstock. So I'm going to take that same silver embossing powder from Simon and sprinkle that on top, and I'll shake off the excess, and because I prepped the area with an anti-static powder tool, the excess powder comes off really super easy, and I'm left with a very beautiful, intricate pattern. I love this pattern. It makes me think of like the sheets inside a book cover, a hardbound book cover, just those really cool little patterns. So this card design is basically done until I put it on a card front. So now I'm moving on to this other card here, and this is one that actually gave me quite a bit of trouble. So I started out by stamping my sentiment first, and I think if I was going to do this card again, I would wait to stamp it till the very end, and you'll see why in a bit. But there's this little corner piece, this corner design in the stamp set, and I'm going to repeat stamp it 4 times and rotate it each time that I stamp. And the embossing powder I'm using today is some copper embossing powder from WOW, and it almost has a little bit of a rose gold color to it, but it's definitely copper, and I thought it looked so gorgeous against this in the navy cardstock from Gina K Designs. So I love this copper with the navy. I think I did a card around the Christmas time where I used a rose gold embossing powder on navy cardstock, and I loved it then too. So this is kind of reminiscent of that color combo. So like I said before, I did rotate the stamp 3 more times to create this entire element here. And this is some really precise stamping. Like I took my time, I slowed down, I made sure everything was positioned just right. And even with that, the greeting that I had already had stamped there was a little too up high on that. You can see how it's not completely centered in that horizontal line area. So I'm going to fix that here in a minute. Before I do that, I've put some Versamark on the edges of my cardstock, and then I added some of that copper embossing powder. I did clean up the embossing powder edges a little bit with a dry brush, just brushes away the embossing powder. Then I hit that with my heat tool until it was smooth and melted, and this melts really fast when it's just on the edge of cardstock. Doesn't take very much time at all. So in order to fix this greeting that went wrong, it probably was okay, but it was just a little not centered for me. It was really bugging me for how precise the rest of this card was. So I took an X-Acto knife and very gently scraped off most of that embossing powder. You're not going to get it back to the point where you can't even see it, because that's just not going to happen. But I was hoping that I would be able to take most of it off so that I could put some vellum on top. So I used a mono sand eraser from Tombow, and that really cleaned off all of that embossing powder. And all that I'm really left with is mostly just the Versamark ink from when I stamped it, and then just a little ghosting around where the embossing powder was. So I have some vellum cardstock here. I've stamped and heat embossed my greeting, and then when I place it right over the top, you can't even tell that there was a mistake underneath. Just taking away all of that color and putting the vellum on top really cleans things up quite a bit. So I've trimmed that to a really narrow strip, and I'm wrapping it around this cardstock. I'm going to use a little bit of tape runner adhesive to tape that down to the back of this cardstock here. And I first adhere one side, and then I kind of position things, and then I go to the other side and fold that back and add adhesive on the other side. I like to adhere vellum strips like this because otherwise the adhesive shows underneath the vellum. So if you wrap it around the card and it's adhered on the back, then you don't see the adhesive at all. So I'm going to set this one aside until I'm ready to put it on my card front. And I'm going to do one more card design, and this time I'm using some charcoal brown cardstock from Gina K Designs. And the first thing I did was, of course, prep my area with an anti-static powder tool. Then I stamped this sort of label shape. And this label shape is sized perfectly for a few of the greetings in the stamp set. So I'm going to be stamping a greeting on the inside of it too. I'm now using ultrafine antique gold embossing powder. And this is from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to sprinkle that on top of my stamped area and then shake off the excess. And then like I've done in the past on all the other cards, then I heat it with my heat tool. And if you want to heat the back of your cardstock, sometimes that takes away some of the warping that you might get. So I stamped the Hello Friend greeting. Then I brought back that coffee filter with the embossing powder in it. And I applied the embossing powder and then heat set it until it was smooth and melted. So in order to get the stamping just right on this particular design, I did use a T-square ruler, and I marked a vertical line that was down the center of the card. And then I stamped this little border piece 4 times, similar to what I did on the previous card, where I just took that border and I rotated it, moving all the way around. And this border, since it's smaller, it's sized just perfectly to fit with this label shape. So after I had all 4 stamped and embossed, I decided that I didn't like how it was sort of near the top of that card. It was the spacing was just a little off, so I decided to use a die cutting machine and die cut a circle. So I die cut that out. And then just to add a little more intricacy to this card front, I'm going to stamp the other border piece. So I have some Neenah Classic Crest. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is not Classic Crest. This is Neenah Desert Storm environmental cardstock. And I've got that other border, and I'm going to be repeat stamping this a few times so I can have this pattern along the bottom of the cardstock. And this pattern is gorgeous. I think you could put it on the edge of a card just like that, and it would be really, really pretty. Just a little bit of lacy intricacy. So here's where I'm using that transparency grid. I placed it down, and then I was able to kind of move it around until I got it in the right spot. And I did this mostly because this is my second time stamping this. The first time I just placed the stamp directly on the cardstock, and then when I picked it up with the door of my MISTI, the cardstock shifted a little bit and whatever. Anyway, the residual Versamark ink on the stamp, whatever was left over from the first time I stamped it, transferred onto the cardstock. So when I went to emboss, I had like a double image. It was really strange looking. So I decided I start over. And when I did it this time, I made sure that I placed that stamp on top of that grid transparency sheet, got it in position, and then I was able to remove the transparency sheet after it was on the door of the MISTI. So I'm prepping my card bases here. I'm using some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in 110-pound weight. And I put a bunch of foam adhesive on the back of each of these pieces and then adhered it down onto the card front. I put foam adhesive on the back of this circle piece as well. And then I placed a little bit to the left on the card. You could put it right in the center if you wanted, but I kind of liked it a little bit off to the left. Then for the Wishing You the Best card, I put more foam adhesive on the back of that and placed it directly onto the card front. And last but not least, I adhered the green card design onto the front of this card base. So those are the 3 cards that I created with embossing powder and the Deco Borders and Corners stamp set. Hope you guys will check that out. I'll put that coupon code on screen again right now if you want to check that out. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed those cards. Thank you so much for watching today's video. On screen are 2 more videos that I think you'll really love. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos. If you loved this video and you'd like to share it with a friend, hit that share button. I would really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in another card video very soon.